The Star Wars universe has gained momentum in recent years, and Lucasfilm is currently developing many films, TV series, and video games. Some projects become successful, some become complete or partial failures, and some are completely cancelled. Today, the fate of the remake of the legendary game Knights of the Old Republic is completely unclear, although some insiders say that work on it continues. If this is true, then good, because the Old Republic is perhaps the best era of Star Wars, which is famous for its dark atmosphere, a wide variety of worlds and living creatures, the orders of the Sith and Jedi in their prime, as well as a well-developed plot capable of hooking even those who are not familiar with Star Wars at all. And you know, I've always wanted Lucasfilm to one day dedicate a movie or series to the Old Republic, and most importantly, they would put Revan and Malak in the lead roles. This is a real classic, and so, just recently, the first news began to appear regarding the film adaptation of the Old Republic. According to insiders close to the situation, Lucasfilm understands how interesting this era is and how many fans it has, so the company is considering the possibility of a film adaptation and sees the potential in this, and at the same time treats such a project with a little fear. The Old Republic hasn't received big new projects for a long time, and therefore it's difficult for Lucasfilm to predict how well it will perform on streaming or big screens in cinemas, but the company still wants to master this era and please its fans. Recently, Leslie Headland, the showrunner of Acolyte and a big fan of the Old Republic, expressed a desire to work on this very film adaptation and dedicate her series to Kreia, also known as Darth Treya. As Leslie says, this old lady has great potential for good storytelling and conveying the same atmosphere of the Old Republic as it was in both parts of Knights of the Old Republic. The idea is good, but Leslie Headland, to put it mildly, is not the best candidate for the position of director. She seems to be able to create something good, and the Chimera story arc is a good confirmation of this. But at the same time, she can heap a lot of manure, and the third episode of Acolyte demonstrated this perfectly, which means that the Old Republic will definitely not be a consistently successful series in her hands, so it's better to look for someone more reliable. So, as you can see, some work towards the Old Republic is really being carried out in the offices of Lucasfilm, and several years ago, the company even had global plans for this era. Firstly, for the first time in a long time, they allocated additional funding to BioWare for the development of the Legacy of the Sith add-on for Star Wars The Old Republic, and even splurged on a beautiful CGI cinematic. Secondly, they have allocated as much as $70 million for the development of a remake of Knights of the Old Republic, and most likely in the process of work, the budget will at least double. But over the past 3 years, we have received a lot of bad news about this game, although now work on it seems to be continuing, as authoritative insiders say. Well, thirdly, Lucasfilm began to dive more and more into antiquity, and the same Acolyte is such an Old Republic at minimum wage, and there is also a film from James Mangold based on the era of the Dawn of the Jedi, which at one time was a prequel to the Old Republic. Thus, the company really had grandiose plans for the development of this wonderful era of Revan, Malak, and Nihilus, and other legendary Sith. But at some point, everything began to crumble, and they had to wait a little with the debut of the Old Republic on streaming and in theaters. As you already understand, Lucasfilm is now again excited about this idea, and most likely they first want to release the long-suffering remake of KOTOR, and only then, if the game sells well, make more concrete plans for a film adaptation. But if the Old Republic one day does get its coveted film or series, what will it turn out to be? You know, I certainly want to be an optimist and say that we will be shown Revan and Malak, Bane and Zana, Nihilus, Sion and Treya. But the realist in me, taught by bitter experience, says that this would not happen, and instead we will get something like Acolyte with new characters, plot retcons, and at times terrible episodes. Personally, I see only these two options: either everything is good or very bad. But if I had the chance to direct a film adaptation of the Old Republic, I would show the audience the Mandalorian Wars. Firstly, they feature many people recognizable to young audiences in armor familiar from the latest series. Secondly, the well-known Revan and Malak took an active part in them long before the events of the game, and during this period, important changes took place in the character of each hero, which became the reason for their fall to the dark side. So absolutely everyone will be satisfied. Love The Mandalorian and Boba Fett? Here's to the massive Mandalorian wars. Do you love the Old Republic and its heroes? Here are young Revan and Malak. I can't imagine a more ideal option. And most importantly, you need to shoot an animated series based on the Old Republic in the format of the Clone Wars, when you will definitely get a good successful project and all the important story arcs will be fully revealed. But how it would actually be depends only on Lucasfilm. As always, I want to hope for the best, but I can no longer relax and trust the company. So all that remains is to monitor what is happening and draw conclusions, good or bad. And if you found the video interesting, you can support it with a like and write your thoughts in the comments. Well, that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.